Hello, Marcus Wilds here. I want to go over the spacing. They call spacing, or that pertains to horizontal drilling. First of all, horizontal drilling is altogether different than the vertical wells that used to exist on the reservation. A horizontal in our Bakken formation, it goes 2 miles down to the formation, then it follows the formation, whether it's like a wave, and they keep the bit in there 2 miles across. If it's a 640 spacing, it's a mile. It'd be like a 3 miles, 2 miles down and 1 mile horizontally. If it's a 1280 spacing, it's 2 miles down and 2 miles horizontally. So the oil activity on the reservation pertains to all these townships here. And here's the dividing line. And your land may be located here, and they may be, all the drilling takes place on the section lines and at the top of normally a section. And it could take 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, or even 4 sections. So they have what they call pads. So you got 6 wells in a pad, and you got more wells, and they call that a pod. So there could be 18 wells and 3 pads. So most of the activity takes place throughout here. And I'm gonna go to the board over there and draw. So it's like 2 sections, section 1 here and section 12 here. So all the drilling activity are done on the section lines, here or at the top or here. So anybody that owns land in these 2 sections participates in the communitization of the well. Communitization agreement is what's drawn up between the Bureau of Land Management and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And it dictates who gets paid out of there and how they'll get paid. And they're really getting complicated, the communitization agreements today, because of so much well activity and wells crossing different sections. But let's say they're drilling, originally they drilled 1 well. It's right here. And they did a 640 spacing and ended up here. So that's a 640 spacing. So anybody owning minerals in this section participated in this oil drilling well here. So then they start the pads. So they do a four section 1, and they drill down to the bottom of here. So they participate in a 1280 spacing. And then the same scenario, they draw up a communitization agreement for those 4 wells involving everybody having ownership in these 2 sections. And you're paid on the percentage you own, called a pro rata. So let's say you owned 10 acres here. So your share would be 10 acres of 640 spacing, whatever the spacing is, or 10 acres of 1280 spacing. Now a lot of people don't like the spacings of 3 or 4 wells together because their ownership diminishes drastically. But the oil company, oil companies do it to save them money, because they're drilling 4 wells to cover 2 sections. So when they get activity, they start going, then they could drill 6 wells down here. And it might be in this corner, then they'll all go up. And it might include another section. So you've got, your spacing gets bigger by the section. So all these drill up. So that really gets complicated on many sides for the enrolled members, because The well file number by the state for each well and by the lease number by the BIA. And then the API index by the BLM. So when people get paid, they're identified by the lease number. It might end in 82440. And it might be just this well. So every one of these wells will be paid out of the lease of this first well here. So you got 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 wells being paid out of this lease. And it really gets complicated, and it's hard to prove what your production is and what your payment is. So what we have to do is set up spreadsheets, and each spreadsheet denotes every well's production for any 1 month. Like say October of 20, we take all 11 wells and we get a total. And then we do the math, we multiply the barrels of oil by the price. We call it production, but what's happening is the oil companies are not paying by production, they're paying by what they sell. And that's in a disagreement we have with them. But anyway, then you take your royalty rate, 18% times that, and whatever this ends up to be is your proportionate share of this, depending on what spacing. And it really gets complicated. It's the payments that go from the oil company to the Office of Natural Resource and Revenue never 100% get paid to you. For some reason, they end up with balances there. So we don't know what balances are there, whose they are, or whatever. But we could go back and trace from every production of every well file and see if that person is getting their proper share, and then go backwards to recover based on production, not sales. They call them runs on the production record to the state of North Dakota. So every month that a oil company reports to the state of North Dakota, we don't know until 30, 45 days later. So the October numbers we didn't get till middle of December. The November numbers we're not going to get until next month. So some wells are further behind. So you got to figure out what company you're dealing with and how far behind they are. So normally everybody should have gotten paid for on last Friday, December 11th, for October oil or September oil. So it really gets complicated. You got to follow every record. You got to set up spreadsheets that prove what's being sent and what you're receiving. And at first it was quite easy because there was only 1 well per section almost. But now there's up to 38 wells in the spacing. And the influx of communitization agreements is drastic. There's thousands of communitization agreements. And each one we got to read over and see how it affects everybody that's requesting information. So in short, that's kind of what a spacing is. And I'll run different scenarios and talk to different people, and you can get a better understanding of it. But basically, that's what it is. Thank you.